watching Let's Chat.
Our attorney friend Gary Massey from Massey and Associates joining us this morning, talking about kind of a wide variety of topics, including some new laws that recently went into effect. Gary Massey, good morning.
Good morning.
Before we get to some of these new laws, people have gone years without hearing the term 25th Amendment.
That's true, yeah.
Now you've heard it dozens of times over the past couple of weeks. Exactly the 25th Amendment, what is required for the Vice President and the Cabinet, it can't be just one or the other, to remove the sitting president from office? What is legally required?
Well, it's an interesting thing in the Constitution, and I went back and researched it myself to make sure I knew what I was talking about. But the heads of the executive departments, which we call the cabinets, the ones, the men or the women who are the heads of the departments, can vote along with the vice president. And so it's sort of like the vice president has a veto. So if a majority or even all of the cabinet heads voted to oust the president and the vice president did not vote along with them, then it would not happen. But if he did vote with a majority of the cabinet, then the president himself would be removed and the vice president would take his place. And then it would go to Congress to decide whether or not that was the right thing, or the president can then say, I'm able to perform my duties, and then Congress would make a decision about whether or not that would be the case. But it's the vice president plus at least half of the cabinet secretaries.
All right, what about this scenario? And I'm reaching out on a limb. Say President Trump resigns Monday.
Okay.
Pence becomes president until Wednesday at noon.
Mm-hmm.
During that period, Pence could pardon President Trump for any perceived crimes. And then Joe Biden assumes the presidency Wednesday at noon as per the Constitution. Is that viable?
It probably is, Chip. There's so few things have happened in history to give us really any court guidance on how these things would be handled. And it really highlights the importance of having honorable and trustworthy people in positions of power and positions of authority, because this kind of self-dealing and protecting people like that, though we did see it in the Nixon era, it's really dangerous to think of trying to make these about such individuals. But theoretically, the answer to your question is yes, it could happen, and it might be a viable legal strategy.
And I think presidential pardons are irrevocable. Is that correct? Are you sure one way or the other about that? I've been told by several different people who are high up in the political world that presidential pardons are irrevocable.
That's my understanding, that they are irrevocable, and once it's done, it's done. And the thing about it is, when a presidential pardon is issued, it's not very long until the president changes, and so you then have a different president. And so certainly a new president cannot come back and undo what a former president did.
All right, shifting gears here, new laws taking effect in Tennessee. One that we have listed down here, the age for buying tobacco has changed. Fill us in.
Well, for years, for my entire life, the age of buying cigarettes or other tobacco products has been 18. Tennessee has now raised that age to 21, and so it's just like alcohol. You now have to be 21 years of age. And when I was a child and many years ago, it was really winked at for people, even teenagers, to buy cigarettes or dip or things of that nature. But that has been getting a lot more enforcement in the last few years, and now they have raised the legal age. So for 20-year-olds who have been accustomed to buying cigarettes, they're now going to have to wait a year until they turn 21 before they're legally able to buy them.
And for adults, it is illegal for you to buy them and give them to a minor as well.
That's right.
And there are increasingly stiffer penalties for retailers who sell to underage minors, provided they are caught doing that.
Right, and there is a real strong push on that enforcement against the retailers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, new laws going into effect to protect pregnant workers. Tell me about that.
Well, this is quite frankly, a law that's been a long time coming. But in Tennessee, the legislature passed a law this past year, which took effect January the 1st, that says pregnant women in the workplace must be given reasonable accommodations as a result of their pregnancy, related to their pregnancy, as long as it's not an undue burden on the employer. And so they specifically say things like relaxing a worker's requirement to lift heavy objects. The ability to sit down. So if a woman's job normally requires her to stand, she should be provided a stool or things of that nature to relax the burden of her having to stand for long periods of time. Also making water available, making sure that she's able to stay hydrated when normally maybe they would restrict liquids in the workplace. And also bathroom breaks, giving a pregnant woman more frequent access to the bathroom outside of the normal work rules that may restrict a person's movements, and that the state legislature is specifically saying that a woman is entitled to those things, and if she doesn't receive them, then she has a cause of action for discrimination, in a sense.
All right, Gary, hopefully we can talk you into coming back and joining us tomorrow. We're up against the clock now. We are out of time, but you can get in touch with Gary and the team at Massey & Associates. Call them at 697-4529 or the website, masseyattorneys.com, masseyattorneys.com. We'll be right back.